I will briefly start, and Tommy will continue, and then I will end. So it's kind of a hamburger. The meat is in the middle, and I'm the bread around. I'm in charge of a project in Stockholm called the GrowSmarter, and we are working on, and the GrowSmarter comes from the words that Stockholm is the fastest growing capital in Europe. So we have a growth demand. At the same time, we have a challenge. 2040, Stockholm wants to be completely fossil fuel free. So these two issues are combined in here. So what can we do? The area that you see in the background is the Slakthus area. It's an area that will be developed in the future years. And you see also the arenas, Globen and Tele2 and Hovet. And this is one of the areas where we are now setting sensors and where we will be working together with IBM on the data issues. So that's something that will be really much changing, and where we have lots of these demands, fast growing, lots of new traffic, lots of logistics, and you have event visitors entering that area. All this has to be managed, and we don't currently have a system for that in Stockholm. So that's something we are now testing in our project. Let's see. So the GrowSmarter project is basically, we have 12 larger smart solutions that we're introducing. It's a 5-year project, so we're implementing them. Most of them are implementing now, so we are in evaluation. And the idea here is to work very, very closely with the industrial partners. So whatever we are implementing, we are evaluating carefully and getting proofs of concept. So the main target is to reduce the energy use with 60% and also the fossil fuel emissions and carbon dioxide emissions from traffic. But at the same time, we want to create growth in the city, economical growth, and we want especially to improve the quality of life of citizens. So the citizens is really, really important here. So when we will select in different kind of solutions to implement, we will looking at all these areas together. So not only that it reduces, for instance, energy use, but we have to also see that does it increase the quality of life for citizens. At the same time, can it create new work in the city? So the industrial partner role is really, really crucial here. So because after the project, the replication, we want these solutions to spread to other cities in Europe. So that's part of our project as well, to introduce new technologies and solutions and replicate them in other cities. The strategy, when I started the project in 2015, I started together with first discussions with IBM, was back in 2014 already. We didn't have any strategy in the city of Stockholm. So this work was done, and the strategy work in 2016, and the City Council approved it in March 2017. And there's two issues here, and one of the issues is that we define that Stockholm City wants to become a smart city as a place, as a location, not just as an organization, meaning that we need to cooperate very much with different actors that are located in the same spot. And Tommy will tell more about that later on in the presentation, but for instance here in the Slakthus area, it's not only the city that we have Stockholm Live that is organizing events. We have, for instance, Klöven that has the Globen shopping. So, then we have lots of different actors within the city working. So these need to interact and cooperate. But in the core, we set that the citizen is the core. Whatever we do, whatever smart solutions we introduce, it has to increase the quality of life of citizens. So and the other issue was that we want to create a better life or surroundings or environment for business to foster and grow. Around that, we have the different sustainability goals, and further around, we have then the more, let's say, the more data-driven, like open, connected, and innovative. So this is actually, GrowSmarter is now running the strategy, implementing the strategy as it is in the Slakthus area, 2 years ahead of the rest of the city. So we are really facing the first-hand problems and solving them. And Tommy will now go more in details what we are actually doing there with the data we're collecting and so forth.
In April 2014, the SVT News broadcasted a warning. Heavy traffic expected at Globen tonight. Of course, you had Avicii on Globen, or at Tele2 Arena, Avicii on Globen, you had a Swedish hockey game in Hovet. So you would expect visitors. And they came, about 42,000 of them, into this area. So you had congestions in the public transportations. People driving in with cars realized no parking spaces, so they parked in the residential areas around this huge event area. But the real problems came when people were leaving, because then everyone leaves at the same time. So when the parents came there with the cars to pick up the teenagers in late evening, they couldn't get into the area. The police had stopped the entrance because of safety reasons. So the parents had to wait for 2-3 hours. The taxis couldn't get in. The buses at the northern Gullmarsplan couldn't get into the stations because of the crowds and couldn't leave on time. So you had a mess there. So how is the situation today, more than 3 years later? Well, one example from June 9th last year was another warning going through the media out to the citizens. And because of large events on an even grander scale. You had Håkan Hellström at Stadium, you had Radiohead at Globen, you had a Summerburst Festival in Stockholm with 2 concerts at Gärdet that day. And you had Sweden, France in the qualifying game for the World Cup in football. So the problem continues, and we as visitors don't know really what to expect and how to handle this. The area we are talking about, the meatpacking district or the Tele2 Globen arena, is the focus of our project together with the city of Stockholm. But what are the problems that we really try to solve? Well, in January 2015, Trafikverket, the National Traffic Administration, came up with a report called Managing of Traffic Problems at Large Events. And I will cite some facts from that. When you have visitors leaving the big arenas here, pedestrians mainly, they try to go to the Globen subway station, or even more up to Gullmarsplan, where you have buses and subway stations. A small stream goes south down to Enskedevägen here to try to catch a taxi. But there are 2 more subway stations, Blåsut and Skärmarbrink, but only about 5% of the visitors try to reach them, even though the distance are the same, easy accessible. So here we have a problem with lack of knowledge, lack of information, lack of guidance. When you have over 40,000 visitors, this roundabout, Sofielund, becomes a parking space. Up to 45 minutes, nothing moves. So you can't get out of the area, taxis can't get in. So this is the situation that you face as a visitor to events. And this impacts also the highways around Stockholm. You have Söderleden going back. Sorry about that. Söderleden and the tunnel system here. But Trafik Stockholm, the operations center, have good tools to manage the traffic, shut down tunnel entrances, and give information to drivers in the highways through Stockholm. So they can handle that a little bit. They are information and media channels there. But within the area here, we don't have any good understanding of what's really going on. We can see the mess, but how to handle it, how to coordinate actions. And what's required there is really to measure, find data about what's really going on, because that could underlie the coordinated actions by the different parties that can handle that. And you need to measure the pedestrians, you need to measure bicycles in the summer, you need to measure vehicles. But you also need to combine it with weather data, because it will determine your choice of transportation, of course. And lousy weather will also cause a lot of problems. But you also need to combine it with information about the events. What can you expect this evening or this weekend? What kind of events? Are there a lot of young people with parents that want to drive and fetch? Or what can we expect? And you need to collect this data and learn from it as well. So what we're doing now, we are installing Wi-Fi sensors, of 45 of them, in this event area to capture pedestrians and bicycles. You can get their position, you can get the volumes, the directions, and the speed. So you get some basic information. Then we will have 10 video sensors where we will capture information about the vehicles. What type of vehicle it is, the volumes, where they enter the area, where they leave, how long they are in the area. And since we can read the registration plates, we know exactly what type of vehicle. Is it a bus? Is it a lorry, a taxi, or a private car? So here we are starting to capture data that can give us an understanding of what's going on. And then we complement it with weather data from Weather Company, which is a subsidiary of us, and then event information. All of this information is, of course, anonymized before we get it into our system here. But the key question here is really, so what? What will we deliver to whom here? Who are the users and what are the use cases? Our work started with what we call ideation and design thinking workshops, where we had representatives of the city of Stockholm, of course, traffic analysts, city planners, people representing the project leadership, and we had the environmental department. We also have people from Traffic Stockholm, the operations center, and so on and so on. And this kind of workshops continues. But from the initial workshops, we have identified 3 major user groups. Of course, the visitors. I mean, these are citizens or visitors from other parts of the country, and we want to make sure that their experience of the visit is good. So they need information, they need guidance before, during, and after the events. But also the drivers. Some of the visitors are drivers, but we also have a lot of drivers and residential people that are impacted by this. So there we have the first group. We also have organizations that are in charge of this. You have Stockholm Live, who handles the operators that arrange events. They have selling the tickets, they communicate with the visitors. There you have a channel out to the visitors. And they are very interested as well to see how can we optimize our commercial possibilities with the visitors and give them a good experience. But we have Traffic Stockholm, the operations center. They are very interested to understand the real-time situation and incidents and so on, because they can coordinate public transportation capacity, they can provide information in real time out to drivers, they can use media and so on. And then in the longer perspective, we also work with the traffic analysts and the city planners, because even if we try to handle the incidents or the acute problems, I mean, you need to develop the area and the way this is managed and the information flow so you get a sustainable solution for this. So you have 3 groups of users and use cases, but you can see clear synergies between them. And that's something that we often find in these projects. So what would be success factors? Well, the value delivery, of course. I mean, the perceived value, the perceived value of whatever information and guidance you get, that's what defines the value, if there are visitors or citizens or customers or whatever. Of course, you can have use cases where you have more traditional measurements, like faster time to market, reduced cost, improved revenue, and so on. But you have to determine what is the real value that I want to achieve here, and then focus on that. The data will determine what you can deliver, but you need to be able to verify the quality of the data to understand exactly what kind of insights can you derive from it that can help with new decisions, new guidance, or whatever you want to do. But also the ability of the organization to really handle this kind of changes is important. Often you see that you have an organization that needs to run their daily business, and suddenly there is a strategy that should be implemented, but I don't have time to get freed from my normal day-to-day routine. So you need to give a mandate in the organizations with the right people that understand the business and understand where you're going. They need to be able to spend time on the new projects, otherwise they won't fly. And competences, you need to bring the right competence from your organization, but you probably need to reach out in your ecosystem to get specialists. Could be data scientists or analysts or whatever. And to support this, you would also need technology that would support these kinds of groups of competences and the success factors here. So you need to have some kind of IoT platform where you capture data from whatever sources you have. And if it's sensors, MQTT protocols, and whatever communication means you're using. In this case, we will get the data through the fiber channel network of Stockholm into our platform. You need services to make the data useful. You need to manage the data, combine it maybe with your existing data sources. You might even look at using social media data here. You need to think about risks there, of course, and trust. It's in the news now. But of course, you might be able to develop mobility solutions and so on. And in the future, you might build in AI cognitive functionality in this to really raise the value of this. And you might need then to support this with a team of developers, in-house or external. So you need a platform that can manage that and handle that and support that. So how can the City of Stockholm expand this initial project? I will leave that to Mika, to some thoughts around that.
Yes, so we started with basically one department and a traffic department of Stockholm. And the whole platform idea is that we already realized that we need to have shared platforms. So if another department would be able to or would like to have access to the same data, how could they do that? So very much of the thinking is we start with a small group of users and then we extend the amount of users, but using the same platform and the same database that we have. So that's the first thing. I mean, we need to have a tool that you can be expanded and be used by others. It's not only for one specific purpose. For instance, in this case, these analysts that have been discussed during events, it could be used for a completely different amount of analysis or data management. And another thing that we have in the strategy is that we have a strategy to have open data. And which of the data that we are now collecting into the data system can be opened up for others. And how could, for instance, external developers get access to that data and use that, for instance, to create new applications for citizens. So that's another area. A third area is we really need, and we see that we need to test, we need to work and test and find out what works and what doesn't. So we need to have some kind of digital platform for innovations. I will have a picture of that in the last slide. And we also need to have a possibility to easily add sensors and data sources into the same thing. So we're looking at having a shared common platform for that purpose. So the idea of now that we have the sensors, we have the networks and all as part of this project, we have the platform. We have been working with design thinking on different kind of tools for innovation. But what we are lacking, what we really want to develop as further, is a kind of a living lab where the end users, visitors, or inhabitants could participate completely in a different way. So that's all that we have to say. Thank you.